everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome back to another Best of Publishers list that I do. I do top 10 games from various publishers. Today I'm doing Stonemaier Games. Now, Stonemaier Games does not have many more than 10 games. I believe they might have 13 at this point in time. And so, but you know what? They're a force in the hobby. Stonemaier Games came onto the scene and really did well on Kickstarter, did extremely well. And Jamie Stonemaier, the president, has done a lot of blogs and thoughts on Kickstarter for a while. He was on our crowd surfing show that we do. And eventually moved away from that, has a legion of fans who love his games. When he has a pre-order for a game, they do very well. Has had one mega blockbuster hit and several other games. His games are known for very high quality. They're usually very well honed, and you may not like all the games, and I don't particularly like all of them, but these are my 10 favorite. So number 10 on my list is probably the lowest one, and this is the one that I don't think it's necessarily a bad game, but it's the one I'm okay on. But it makes the list because it's number 10, and that would be Pendulum. Pendulum is a real-time game where you're flipping timers that then let you use actions on your turn, and you're using these actions and you're buying cards to get cooler actions. I feel like the game is interesting, but I also feel like I've seen everything there is in Pendulum. It came out to some pretty strong, it had a very strong start and then kind of faded off the scene, although, again, more Pendulum games have sold than many other games out there because Stonemaier games are that popular. This is one of the least good-looking Stonemaier games, but I did enjoy my plays of it, but I also feel like I'm done with the game, but that's why it's number 10 on my list. Pendulum. Number 9 is Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Now, Between Two Cities didn't make my list. That's fine, but it's kind of faded for me. Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig has a mechanism I'm not a big fan of, and that's where you're working with people on two sides of you. And then your score is the lower of those, so sometimes the person who's sitting between the two best players can win, which is kind of cool maybe in some ways, but I'm a bigger fan of working on my own thing. That being said, this mixes Between Two Cities mechanisms, which was just laying tiles and building a city. Now you're building a castle based on the castles of Mad King Ludwig. So there's some interesting ideas here and some cool bits, and that's why it's number 9. Number 8 is Euphoria. So Euphoria is a dystopian future where you're making people feel better. Kind of a cool theme, but it is dice placement game. When it first came out, there was not many dice placement games, or not nearly as many as there is now. So this one stood out. It still stands out a little bit. It's been overshadowed by many of the other games that come from Stonemaier, but there is some people who this is one of their favorite games from Stonemaier. The Euphoria and just the different options that it has. It's been a while since I played it. It might be time to get it back to the table. Number 7 is Tapestry. Oh, I know, some people really love Tapestry. I do like it. The moving up, it's a civilization-themed game, although very, very loosely. It's more about moving up tracks, which I do like. It has special powers, which are perhaps imbalanced, and different civilizations that you will have, and you're deciding which tracks to move up, which technologies to add, what cards to play. It's definitely a game that's made better with expansions. Adding more stuff makes this game better as opposed to many other games, and the buildings still need some bases for them, but it does have cool buildings. It does have some really cool ideas, and every time I played it, I've had a good time. I do have some little problems with it, but at the end of the day, it's one that I enjoy. Tapestry. Number 6 is Libertalia. This is not originally from them, but Libertalia, this is a reprint that they did. I do not particularly love the new theme of weird anthropomorphic animals as pirates, and it's almost like a cutesy theme in a sense, and Libertalia is about pirates. But taking that out, the game is really well done. The upgraded mechanisms, the way that this game scales. So Libertalia is a game that can go up to 6, and I think it still works with that many players. As you're all simultaneously selecting cards, you all have the same 9 cards until round 2, where now you might have a few different cards than other people. And it can feel both chaotic and strategic, and I really enjoy it. And I like the pirate theme a lot. Number 5 is My Little Scythe, which I thought was a joke when I first heard rumors of this, as evidence is clearly out there for being. But this is a kid's version of Scythe. Now, originally it was supposed to be My Little Pony Scythe. It's not. It's just cute little animals. But you know what? This is one of the more involved kids games out there. It takes many of the mechanisms of Scythe and condenses them down, has an interesting friendship mechanism, beautiful pieces, and I've, with kids, found this to be a ton of fun. Very cool game. You know, sometimes you look at games for kids and say, well, they're all the same. My Little Scythe is not all the same. Now, there are some people who made the argument that it's more than a kid's game. It's for adults. I very much disagree on that. I would never bring this to the table over Scythe or pretty much any other game. But when played with my children, I found this to be very fun. My Little Scythe. Number 4 is the mega hit, the biggest one, the one that sold the most of all his games, I think more than all the rest of his games put together, and that is Wingspan. I still remember the first time I played this, putting it out, looking at it, thinking the bird theme was really cool, and then playing a game and going, wow, it's a very entertaining engine builder. And it is. This kind of turns on its head the notion that themes need to be quote-unquote cool. I think birds are cool. And that nature themes are very appealing. I would say the current trend in our hobby of everyone playing nature games, a lot of it stems from the fact that Wingspan was so successful. Its designer, Elizabeth Hargrave, made a name on this game. It's really popular. It still sells well. There's multiple expansions for it. There's more upgrades for Wingspan than almost any game I've seen because it's that popular. It is a lot of fun, and I look forward to each expansion as it comes out. Number 3 is Charterstone. Now, I was a little suspicious when Jamie Stegmaier said he was making a legacy game because he had touted Viticulture Tuscany expansion as a legacy game, and it really was just a bunch of modules. If you think about it, Charterstone is kind of the same way. And in fact, my ranking of Charterstone so high is not based on the fact that it is legacy. I just really like the game. And now that it's finished, now that we're done with the legacy and I have a built game, I think it's an excellent worker placement game with all different cool subtypes of workers that exist. And I also really like the app that you can find online for it. And it's a really cool thing. And a lot of people don't play this one. And I think some people were put off by the somewhat slow, not as exciting legacy experience. For some people, I actually didn't dislike the legacy game. I thought it was fun. But the final product I like even better. Number 2, probably his most critically acclaimed game, would be Scythe. Scythe is a game with giant mechs based on art, essentially, where mechs, kind of a steampunk-esque, were mechs in Russia in the 1800s. I like that concept, and when I first saw the game, I was like, is it a war game? And it's not. It is straight up a Euro-style game. There's a little bit of combat in it, which uses tried and true combat style, harkening all the way back to the game Dune is in the side, but it's more about manipulating resources, upgrading your board, and has a really unique player action mechanism that's been duplicated in very few games. A lot of neat things, and it has an amazing expansion, The Rise of Fenris, one of the best expansions ever made for any game. It's just absolutely fantastic and gorgeous on the table. And my number 1 game, probably no surprise here, is Viticulture, which is odd because the first time I played Viticulture, I gave it a 6 out of 10. He changed one rule in the second edition of Viticulture, and that shot it up to an 8 or maybe even higher. And then the expansion Tuscany, and then a reworking of Viticulture into the essential Viticulture, has made the game one of my favorites. This game about making wine, placing workers, but deciding what season to put them in. I think just so you know, if I'm just picking the base game by itself, Scythe would beat out Viticulture. But when you include Tuscany, it's not even close. Tuscany is another one of my favorite expansions. Obviously, Stonemaier Games is really great about putting out expansions that up their games. And I just love this game. There's so many options, so many cool things. As you decide where you're going to place your workers, cutting off other people, but you have that El Grande worker, so you know you're going to get one action. Do you want to use a lot of actions in earlier seasons or in later seasons? Lots of good, juicy decisions. It's just a fantastic game. So those are my top 10 Stonemaier games. What's yours? Let me know in the comments what your favorite Stonemaier game is. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the best of publishers on the Dice Tower.